Today I'm going to be talking to you about the rating system and video games. Many of you may feel that it may not be important, but as holidays come around, including birthdays, Christmas, and the occasional special day, it's fun to buy video games for nephews, nieces, or friends who like or enjoy to play video games. But the big problem is to choose age-appropriate video games. The worst problem that can occur is to buy a video game for your niece and nephew and then your sister or brother come at you wondering why their children are saying prohibited words. So in order to make a precise decision and an age-appropriate video game, it's helpful to know about the ESRB. The ESRB stands for Entertainment Software Rating Board. It's a self-regulatory board established in 1994. Out of the 3 different rating systems, which include movies, music, and video games have the most extensive rating system than all others combined. There are 2 parts to the rating system. There are rating symbols and content descriptors, which we will discuss later. Also, it's good to know that there are a lot of rules involved with video games. The most important is the ID. Recently, it has been forced more due to people selling video games to people who are not 18 and were trying to acquire rated M video games. In order to purchase an M or AL video game, you must be 18 and older and show proper ID. Now, these are the rating symbols. EC stands for early childhood and is good for children ages 3 to 5. E, which stands for everyone, are good for children between the ages of 7 to 10, but can be played by the general audience. Now, E10 is the newest one. According to the Seattle Times from March 4th, 2005, E10 was added after a big debate between the large age gap between E and T, which is huge because T can range anywhere from 13 to 18. And for E, it's for everyone. So parents were concerned whether or not which one they should buy. So E10 was added in order to get the preteens, which is the odd ages between 10, 12, and 13. Now T is for teens and usually have fantasy, violence, animated blood, and may depict language, sexual, or alcohol references. M is for mature and usually have mature subject matters, which can easily be related to rated R movies. And AO is the most rare of the ratings. Adult only is usually reserved for the most offensive video games and rarely are found in shelves. RP stands for rating pending. This means that the video game hasn't been released yet and has yet to be submitted to the ESRB to be rated. Now to find where it's found. If you in the video game store, it's easy to locate the rating symbol in the bottom left corner, which is E10. And if you flip the video game over to the back, it has the content descriptors. Content descriptors are a more in-depth analysis of the video game rating. For example, alcohol reference, animated blood, and blood. It's good to know that the different content descriptors. You can find an extensive list of all the content descriptors and their meanings at the ESRB website. For example, the most common is the difference between fantasy violence and animated violence. Fantasy violence usually involves things killing giant trees, poofs of smoke, and maybe odd, weird colored blood that isn't referenced to. Now, animated blood or animated violence is usually violence depicted such as guns, fights, bruises, and cuts. Now, now that you know the 2 versions, which are rating symbols and content descriptors, there are still more things to learn, because all games are not created equal. Some are more appropriate than others. There is the mild form. When a game says mild, that means there's a lesser version of the content descriptor, like mild blood would have less or not as offensive blood display than something that says blood. Or mild language would have less language used and usually won't use languages that are more offensive than this one that just says offensive language. Now, DLC is downloadable content. If an item says DLC, this usually has content that hasn't been rated by the ESRB that is downloaded from obvious sites. According to IGN, it's important to know when and how available downloadable content is. If it's a computer game, it's more easily accessible. One of the main problems with this is, for example, the Sims 2 video game. It's easy to go on many online sites to download modifications that may add or change things that become more offensive for the gamer. And Online interaction is not rated by ESRB. Nowadays, many games are online, which you can play with friends and family. And when you're online, there's no telling what people can say or comment on, and so gameplay can change. I've talked about the TCAP as well, that in around 2005 they added the E10, and the last one I want to talk about is RP and RPT. Due to reservations, you can reserve a game in advance before the game comes out. But how would you know the rating if all it says is RP and it hasn't been submitted to the ESRB board? In order to determine this, they implemented a new system according to IGN.com that when the game comes out, it will have RPT if the game has a rating, if they believe the rating will not be E or below. So now that you have knowledge to appropriately buy a video game, you can now have an easy feeling when you buy a video game for niece, nephews, friends, and family.